Bring your cup and take a seat. Fill it up, coffee, wine, or tea. Come find what you're looking for. A good pour.
To actually read this to you because like I have a agent that does research on you, and I just thought this was so good. You're a California based AI consulting company, but her story doesn't start in tech. It starts in a production truck at an NBA event, or on the floor of a Nike activation, or deep in post production suite chasing an Emmy. For more than a decade, Nicole worked in advertising and experiential marketing at the highest levels. Her client list reads like a greatest hits of American brand culture. Isn't that super cool? I was like, man,
Yes, wow. I feel
this
ultra
is.
special, super honored. Wow. I have to
I
Google myself
I
or maybe
know.
ask AI about myself.
I thought that was so neat that it pulled all of that and really kind of gave, you know, people may not know what experiential marketing is, but they know what they've seen people on a floor of an NBA event or, whatever. And so I just thought it was interesting how it worded it. So I think my AI is doing its job.
I would say so, and it's flattering me as well. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, well, let's just start there. You spent over a decade in experiential marketing. You've won Emmys and Addies and more. You've worked with brands like NBA and Nike. So, most people would have stayed in that lane. What shifted for you?
I discovered AI, and I'll say I got bit by the AI bug. And in end of 2021, but really 2022 is when I fully kind of embraced using AI in my day-to-day work, and not really just asking it to do things for me, but figuring out how to make it a part of the workflow and how to use it functionally. Time was kind of not how anyone was thinking about it. It was
Well,
more of
and you
just kind of
were
this
kind
cool little
of in
thing.
that marketing world, which is full of creatives, and that's my background as well. And so, for good reason, there has been some pushback. But as you and I know, there's so much more that we could be using it for rather than creating artwork or ads or things of that nature that tend to rub people wrong in the creative space.
Absolutely. And it was actually frowned upon. People were, oh my gosh, you're using AI, it puts out a bunch of slop, it's just, inauthentic, it's generic. And I would kind of, tease people and I would use something with generic AI, and then I was getting into, the building of the GPTs and all that stuff. And so from there, what happened to me is I actually was able to go ahead and put something together that would kind of show them like this is how it's customized, this is how you would do that.
What tools did you start with?
Mainly chat gpt
Mm-hmm.
and building custom gpts. So this is going to sound totally funny, but I got a book on Amazon, and it was pretty much like how to build a custom gpt. It was maybe about yay thick, and
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of where it started, and then on and more than upward.
And so then you started your own company. And so how, if someone's looking to kind of start an AI company, what was your mindset of what clients were you going to chase, or what was the problem you were trying to help businesses solve?
Well, initially I started chasing marketing agencies, advertising agencies, because I just thought, I mean, what I was doing was so cool and so groundbreaking. And I was doing, work that required like 20, 30 people teams, and I was doing it with a much leaner team. And I felt we were getting great results for fairly, well-recognized brands. And I got the door slammed in my face repeatedly. Over and over again. It was no way, no way. AI is never going to replace us. It's just a fad. And so out of nowhere, I kind of pivoted. I met with a gentleman that was a financial advisor. And that's really kind of where my first breakthrough and client, generation started coming through. Then I got a couple professional athletes that I'd worked with in marketing that were like, hey, I want to try this AI thing, building an app, cloning myself. And it really kind of just started taking off from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't listen to what
So
people say.
Yeah. What I love about you is you've really built the infrastructure and the tech behind it. It's not just, I mean, you've started with GPTs, but it's much bigger than that now. So you talk about AI that actually works. So what does it look like when it doesn't work versus what it when it does?
So when it doesn't work, it's complete and utter chaos. So probably 90% of people feel it doesn't work because it's not trained, it's not seasoned, it doesn't really understand you and how you work. If you don't have workflows, if you don't have processes, it's going to be crazy if you try to apply AI to it. So you have to have some form of structure already and then help apply the AI to that. So figure out what pieces of the process the AI can pick up. And you don't want it to pick up like the big thinking, visionary, strategic pieces. You want it to pick up, kind of the scheduling, the routine, the follow-up, the nurturing, the mushrooming of your accounts, reaching out on LinkedIn, commenting on profiles, that type of stuff. The stuff that, you have to do, but you're like, well, I don't have like 2 hours to sit on LinkedIn.
Right. And I mean, we talk a lot about making sure to have that voice because if you're going to have an AI agent comment on your behalf, it has to know what you would say, right? And so I think that's what I find a lot is, well, it doesn't sound like me. And you're right, they haven't seasoned it. And really coming from a marketing background too, when I've been in marketing for 20 plus years. And when people have marketing problems, it's because they don't have the foundation set. They don't know what they do and why
Correct.
it matters and the target audiences. And now when we add AI on top of that, because a lot of businesses really don't know those things or they've forgotten over years of being in business, they've forgotten the why and the heart of why, what they do. And so what that leads to is a lot of different people in the organization saying different things like they have different audiences that they're reaching or they're different core values or these things that can just get lost if we don't routinely talk about them. And now when we add AI on top of it, it's chaos and slop because
Oh, yeah.
we weren't consistent at the beginning, right?
Positioning and different brand voices that fall under that from maybe the athlete that's on the campaign. So it's really honing down and training all those different voices. You have your main voice, but then, your CEO may have their own flavor that kind of layers on to that and more of a thought leader vibe versus your brand voice for your company's putting out more of your kind of corporate awareness type of content of a CEO, like yourself, you would want to put out more thought leader, value driven content, that's kind of going to position you as that thought leader and then bring attention to your brand because of that.
Right. But AI without training is not going to know the difference between my voice and the company voice
No.
So, and I really like the Nike example because, if the AI only knows to just do it, you're missing out on, women in athletics or, these other things that AI could really help with, but it has to be trained on these individual verticals. That's a really neat example.
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to get a little technical with you because I feel like you
Okay.
bring that to this. So let's talk about MCPs, and I would love for you to kind of talk to people about what this is. You have described it as a phone number to the outside world, but a lot of people, I mean, you and I know what this is, and you and I are using them every day, but help people understand what this is and how it can really bring connection to our AI platforms.
So it's basically the foundation for the AI, and it allows us to route and have different paths that we can utilize the AI. So if you think about when you're sitting at your computer and you're calling your printer, or you're calling, back in the day, maybe you had a phone system hooked up to your computer or different things, you had that one hub that was kind of operating and acting as the router for everything. So that's pretty much what the MCP does. It basically acts as that router for all the different integrations that we're bringing to the table. And then it starts to learn based on how we train it and the different integrations that we give it, the different workflows that we give it, how we work, and which pieces to pull when we say, hey, pull me the Q3 reports. It knows which softwares, what it has to access, all the way down to the output. Do I want it in Word, Excel? Do I want a dashboard output? Is it client facing, internal?
Yeah. So if someone is using Claude, ChatGPT, I mean, there is in the background, you can go into settings and find either integrations or connections. And that's where they would start. And a lot of these platforms have some built out. Like I know in Claude, my Gmail is already connected, my calendar is already connected. Some of those are very easy to connect. And then there's others that we kind of have to go in the back end and, it's a little bit more complicated, right? But do you feel like most things have some sort of connection available?
Nowadays, yes. And there's a lot of tools, like Zapier or N8N that they actually have their own MCPs. That was one of the things when, before Claude and all that was around. It sounds like I'm like totally dating us, but that's only like
It's
a
only
year
been
ago.
like 3 years, right?
Yeah, right.
But it feels like a lifetime ago.
Yeah, and we used MindPal. I used that MCP, and that's what's really kind of how I started connecting everything versus, the old-fashioned way of like, hey, I need to hire a developer to do this. This just made it pretty easy, plug and play. I connect the accounts, I connect the agents, and then I pretty much build the workflow and tell who to do what when.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything else technical you feel like that people are a little scared by, but it's really easier than it looks?
Probably the biggest would be the safety, the security. I think we live in an era right now where it's like, oh, great, I have this report. Let me cut and paste it and put it into Claude or ChatGPT or whatever your preferred platform is, but it's not really thinking about what we're putting into that platform, what information we're releasing. Are we putting, private information or even our own methodologies? Nowadays it's so easy, I mean, just to take anything and, cut and paste it and recreate it with AI. So, really thinking kind of what we're feeding the technology, mainly from a security standpoint.
Yeah. It's definitely something we're not thinking about. You and I have talked a lot about just, businesses are doing things that, I mean, I sometimes I use the example of, you don't let people choose if they don't like Microsoft, you don't let them choose to use Google Workspace for their email, right? So just because they don't like something, an AI tool, you don't just let them, you shouldn't be just say, well, go use it, right? And a lot of times they're on personal accounts, not work-based accounts, and they're feeding it stuff. A lot of it's our business's fault, right? Because we haven't done
Yeah,
the
yeah,
training
yeah.
for people to know, and it especially ChatGPT when it feels like the whole world is using it, and it doesn't seem dangerous. I just don't know that we understand the dangers as a society.
Yeah, I always use the analogy of like a gated community, right? It feels safe because you have all your AI set to some privacy and you have all these secured levels. But when somebody wants to get in a gated community, they typically find a way to get in. And it's kind of the same thing here.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. Okay, let's go back a little bit and talk about where, especially from the marketing creative space, where have you seen the industry change in the last 3 years when you were getting closed doors and you were getting no's and we would never do that? Are you starting to see that change in this space?
Yeah, it's kind of like a haha moment for me because now a lot of the people that were like this is never gonna last are kind of circling back around and asking, hey, how are you doing all this and how do I do this? And so for me it's a full circle moment, right? Because it's finally like that validation where before I felt like, well, I'm kind of like all out in this AI thing alone. So when I found like Molly's community and I met folks like you, and it's just like it's nice to be around other people that like see the opportunity that I see. So
Yeah.
more and more people are coming around, which is great because it's, it's more and more business for us. And for me, I get joy out of, seeing people like live life again and not be like tied to their devices, versus spending hours putting, reports, decks, that type of stuff together.
Yeah. So you and I were on a call yesterday. Let's cover one more technical thing while I'm thinking about it. When we talked about dispatch, and so a financial advisor is on the golf course and they think of something and they open their dispatch on their phone, which is through Claude, and they ask it to do something. Will you just explain, because that's, I don't think people are there yet. Will you explain a little bit of that technical part and really, I mean, it is allows us to be out doing life and then still, I mean, we're going to have things when it comes to business, but we can literally send it to Claude through dispatch that will assign it to an agent. So just will you walk through those steps for people?
Yeah, so not getting, too technical, but pretty much mostly how we're using AI right now is we're, going into our browser and we're logging into Claude, we're logging into ChatGPT. And you can still utilize that functionality, but you can install Claude on your desktop. So it would be an actual desktop application. And my favorite is you can install an app called Dispatch, which is through Claude, and it allows you to dispatch or send tasks from your mobile phone or cell phone to any agents. So I've been working with a lot of financial advisors and they love to be out on the golf course. So I always tell them, like, guys, you can, generate your review meeting materials, schedule appointments, all that stuff while you're out on the golf course. You don't have to worry about, being present in the office or even having an assistant or a virtual admin to handle things. You could just kind of, steer the ship from wherever you're at.
Yeah, I love that. So you and I both have an assessment that kind of can start businesses down the right path. It's kind of like a discovery phase that we're learning about the businesses. What are the types of things that you will walk through with a business? And really, I think you and I both know what good looks like, and so kind of help businesses understand maybe what bad looks like when they're. I mean, there's a lot of AI consultants now, and so, and we the assessment part is good, the discovery part is good, but what maybe would somebody like you and I include versus maybe not so someone you want to work with?
Yeah, well, AI consultants, they're like Starbucks back in the day when they're like every corner, there was like, oh, there's a Starbucks there, there's a Starbucks there. It's kind of like that. And I think a lot of it has to do with it's kind of like an AI gold rush. Everybody wants to get into it, everybody wants to teach it. And yeah, on the surface level, it's easy. I mean, we learned it. I wouldn't say it takes a lot of time to learn it. The biggest mistake I see most beginner consultants making, and I made it myself, is really looking to automate everything overnight and saying, oh, I need to apply an automation to everything. Whereas now I've gotten more strategic to where I actually map out the workflows and I take a look. It's like, okay, this is the meeting process. So what parts are we going to automate and why? Like that's the
Mm-hmm.
main thing is why are you doing it? What is the result? Because you don't want to just automate to automate or create more chaos, more like people in the kitchen, so to speak. If some of these things are happening and certain people are owning those roles, you may, just because you can automate it, it may not make sense to.
Very true. I mean, a lot of times that it's more room for error in some ways, right?
Oh,
And
yeah. Yeah.
just when we're automate, just to automate, and sometimes we forget that we've done it. I think like it's you build a tool and then you're like, oh yeah, I built that, and you've
Yeah.
totally forgotten you've done it. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I like that map idea. The other thing I include is, this is the time we're spending on this, and this is the estimated time savings, as just to help us map, like, so we're not building everything at one time to understand the why, but also the time potentially saved by a business. And then to really look at it, is that time actually saved? Because sometimes we think it's going to save time and it just doesn't.
Exactly. And to your point about the tool, yeah, I do something similar where it's like, hey, you have this task. How many times are you doing it in a day? What's the hourly rate that you pay that person? How much time are they spending on that? And, looking at like the time they're saving, the money they're saving, because a lot of times they don't really realize that, or it's like, well, it's not really worth the savings to have that person, not do that.
Yeah. Okay, so you move from a high profile, high energy, exhausting career field again that a lot of people would love to be in. And then you started an AI business. You've loved the AI part and the creation part. Is there anything that you have just really enjoyed or matters more to you now that you really didn't expect when you started this?
So at first, I honestly just used this to make my life easier. I never thought about it for a business idea. It was like I had a lean marketing team. I had, I'll call them very high net worth demanding clients, and I didn't have a lot of budget internally to hire people. And so it was like, well, how can I figure out how to like duplicate me? And that's really where it started. Like everything that I sell now is kind of a foundation from what I started back then, and I've just kind of built on the different layers as AI has evolved. And for me, the biggest thing is helping people learn about AI because I feel there's so much about AI out there, and they really need someone to kind of be that steward or that guide, showing them like, hey, you have all these technologies, and I mean, how many of us go and buy every AI we see? Hello, me. I was so guilty of that. But it's like, how do I use that in my business? How do I apply Hey Gen, to my marketing funnel to create avatar videos for me? How do I take a GPT and customize it and apply it to a process and then train an agent on a skill? These different things that seem really overwhelming, but once they kind of understand the basic framework, it becomes
Hmm.
easier to get their mind around and for their teams to implement because a lot of their teams take it like, oh, my job's in jeopardy. And I come in right away and I'm like, I'm trying to make your job easier. So,
Yeah.
like, your boss isn't here right now. Tell me, like, the things that are the bottlenecks for you in your job and tell me, like, where you want your position to go because that's, like, really the upside of this. And that's what I didn't see when I first started.
I love that. Yes, yes. So, is there anything you just wish small businesses would understand? Well, even before I get to this question, I think it's really tricky because AI allows us to hit a pain point in a business. Like, right? Like, I can see an ad for record your meetings and have your task go straight to your project management system, which I love. We do this every day, every call. But there's so many squirrels, if you will, of like that, of this, like, oh, I can do this and I can do this and I can do this. And if they don't understand this infrastructure and setting it up properly, we're just paying for skills, right? We're learning about this one skill and we don't understand how it relates to all of these other things. And so what I've really had to learn is solve a problem or streamline a task and then try to set it up in this larger infrastructure so I don't lose it like lose the skill, but also just lose it because I say a lot. I feel so far behind and so far ahead all at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think that when I start talking to small businesses, it's so noisy and confusing when really it's not. If we can understand the infrastructure the
Yeah.
same way we would
Yeah.
understand
Yeah.
an IT infrastructure or a HR infrastructure, if we can understand AI is really another department of the business or an infrastructure of the business, we can see how these puzzle pieces, these skills, these little things that we could do all fit together. Are you seeing that in the small businesses you're working with? And I mean, I'm assuming you are, but what are you telling them? And how do we do this well as a small business?
So I see one of two things. I see they either have 100 AI tools and they're like, oh my gosh, I got all these cool tools. How do I use them? Or they're have ChatGPT and they're like, make it better. And it's like, well, either way is not a solution, right? Either way is not going to get you what you want. In one sense, you don't have enough, and in the other sense, you have like way too much. So what I always tell them is I'm like, pick a model to start. Like I use all the models in different capacities right now, and I tell them eventually we will get there. But let's start with something. Let's start with Claude. Let's start with Cowork. Let's automate one or two things. A lot of the advisors I work with, they have to stay in that Microsoft environment. Okay, then it has to be Copilot and take a look and kind of get them more focused in on the task and what we're automating and out of all that kind of noise conversation, right? Because everywhere you go, it's like, oh, the new AI tool. I mean, on the Super Bowl, it was like, oh, you need AI, you need AI. Like that was
Oh
like the
my goodness,
constant
so many
theme in like the
ads.
biggest, right? And you know me, I'm like, oh, finally, I've been talking about this. Finally, people have woken up. And so it's just amazing that we're where we're at right now. But then at the same time, you can't get overwhelmed with all the technologies out there because pretty much every tool you use today has an AI piece. And we're talking about kind of building your own AI piece that works in your voice on those systems versus just kind of the generic stuff that you're getting out there.
Well, and because there's no real connection, right? Like if they're using
Yeah.
the AI version of all of these tools, they're not talking to each other unless you set it up that way. And they're not trained on, a lot of them don't have the ability to train on your voice too. That's the other thing I've really seen is yes, there's AI function, but it's not speaking on your behalf because there's no room for it to be trained, right? So anyway, really, really great points, Nicole. Anything else you'd like to add or share today?
Just that, don't be afraid of AI. Start learning it, take it one day at a time. Find somebody that you can trust to kind of follow as an advocate and a guide to get you there. But don't shy away from it because it's definitely that game changer that the internet and social media was years ago.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.